what's one thing you wish someone would have told you? Well, we kind of touched on this a little bit. So we mixed it. So the first question was what we wish we would have did different. The second question was, what do you wish somebody would have told you when you chose your career path? So it's kind of different. So whatever you chose to do during this time, or whatever you're actively doing, what do you wish somebody would have told you before you like embarked on it? So like for me, before I went to start studying psychology and wanting to do like mental health, I wish somebody would have been like really explain the difference between like social work, counseling, like LPC. I didn't learn about any of that until I was QMHPing. So until I was doing mental health. So I was like, yo, like I completely, at that point it was just getting where you fit in with the degree that you have.
Exactly.
So I feel like I wish somebody would have kind of supported me and let me know exactly what was going on. I feel like I just jumped into stuff and like got in where I fit in and made it work. So I wish I would have just had more clarity. Yeah. Like somebody would have like been like really broke it down for me, like this is what you're getting into. Because I didn't feel like I really had no guide or support. I was just like figuring it out on my own.
That part.
I'll piggyback and say same. So when I got to my 4th year at Mason and I was like, okay, I can't do nothing with this bachelor, so what am I supposed to do? I took a social work course as an elective. So my teacher was a social worker. So I asked her one day, I was like, what do you do? And so she told me, but she was like, if you really want me to, she was like, I can really break down what social work is, which is why I ended up getting my master's in social work. However, I wish that when I would have got my master's in social work, somebody would have stressed to me that I needed to get my license. And don't get me wrong, having an MSW, I can do a lot of things with an MSW. I'm just at a place now where I'm kind of complacent and I'm terrified of going somewhere worse off than where I am. But I wish somebody would have said, you'll be in a better position if you get your license. Because that was not explained to me. So I felt like I graduated and then I just had this, you know, I'm on Indeed and they're like, yeah, it's like 3,000 jobs available for MSW. And I'm reading stuff and I'm like, I don't want to do none of this shit. But the good jobs, you have to have an LCSW. So I'm like, yeah, I wish somebody would have told me that because that I did not know. So, yeah.
Well, definitely, I'm in mental health also. That's my career path. And, you know, I love it. I love mental health. But there's a lot of stuff about the dynamics of mental health I don't love. I don't love that a lot of people are not passionate about it, and so it kind of makes the field messy.
Yeah, for sure.
I wish somebody would have told me that you're not going to be able to save the world, Jaquil. Like, Jesus be offense. I wish they would have just told me like that, because when I had my first job in mental health, I worked with foster care, and I was very like bright eyed and bushy tailed, kind of like wide eyed, and I had no clue about the lingo, the verbiage, the thought meanings, and I embarrassed myself a lot. So how I learned was by being embarrassed. I had nobody to just tell like, hey, you know, this is what this means, this is what that means. So a lot of the stuff I learned about mental health, I really did learn on my own through trial and error, or because it was just one dope person at whatever job I was at who said, I'm gonna take you under my wing. I wish someone would have told me that, like y'all said, is a difference. I chose licensed professional counseling route. That's what my degree is in, and I love it, and I'm happy I did that, because at first I was going to school for social work, and it was the opposite. I did not like social work. When I got my master's, I love the counseling aspect of it. So like, I wish somebody wouldn't have just put the label that if you work in mental health, you automatically a social worker or a psychiatrist. Psychiatrist really actually only has a tidbit to do with the mental health field, and it's really on this prescribed medication.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like, you know, everybody was like, you know, you're gonna be snatching people's kids away. No, that's not it. What I wanted to do, I learned real fast that I hated CPS. It's not that I hate it, it's just I hate how burnt out they are.
Girl, I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
No,
and
CPS.
the opposite. I really did not. So I would say I wish someone would have just really broke down mental health and how broad this field is, and like all the components. That's it for me. Yeah.
I think a lot of those issues would be resolved if we would have been told or shown the example of mentorship.
Yes.
You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Yeah.
know somebody had told me this a long time ago, and I can't remember what profession it was, but the reason that they stayed in their profession, in their education and their profession, was because they had a mentor.
Yes.
I've had people tell me because they had a mentor, they decided they weren't going to be in a profession. So I think seeking a mentor is probably really good advice that I wish I would have known. I think I probably would have stayed more with my journalism and writing more if I had a mentor
Exactly.
to follow and who would give me advice and say, okay, this is what is great about this. This is what you're not going to like. And that kind of gives you more of an insight of whether or not something is right
I
for you.
love that.
That's
that
powerful.
part.
I think that's what we need today is more mentor networks, especially among, women of color.
Yeah.
For sure.
I agree.
I would say do more so of what you love and what you have a passion for.
Yeah.
Because my major when I first went in was criminal justice. I went to work for the FBI. Yeah, right. And then I took a psychology minor. I was like, ooh, I could be a psychology major. And I had a human services minor. And I was like, okay. But from high school, I was doing journalism, yearbook, photography, and that was everything I loved.
Right.
But when I started working in mental health, I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit and listen to nobody problems all day.
Yeah.
That's one reason I have not finished my degree or went back to school. So more so do what you love and what you have a passion for. Because if I had stuck with photography from high school, I feel like my business would be way farther along than what it is now. She is good. And thank you. And yeah, I would really be doing what I love.
But I love that she's self-learning now. Like like Nikki will sit down and figure out how to do something. She used to inspire me. When I met her, was when I first started working in the health field. She was like admin assistant, but Nikki would get online and learn how to do something, like research how to, and she would do it. Like, so all this girl needs to search. She gonna be a big boss. She already a boss. She be a big boss. Yeah.
Thank you.
What about you, Tasha?
So with me, like you said, with her doing the research now, I'm like literally in the process of that now because I didn't have that before. And me growing up and being sheltered and just not having any guidance, I just wish somebody would have just got me out of just told me to get out of my comfort zone and showed me some shit to even broaden just any thought, any spark of anything in me. Like I didn't have any of that, so
Exactly.
let alone even researching. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking I'm going to graduate school, work, and then that's pretty much it. That's pretty much as far as it goes.
Yeah.
So I just wish I would have just had that guidance from the jump, just to motivate me and get me out there to do something different. Because I'm in my 30s and I'm really just still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I also want to say, I do it now because I just haven't been there too long and I just ain't dealing with bullshit. I think we have to be okay with like asking questions and questioning people. Because I was blindsided in the interview. I didn't know that one of the girls in the interview was pregnant. So I didn't know I was going to get her caseload in like 5 months, 6 months after I got the job. So it was kind of like hinted at, but yeah, I was like burnt the hell out. So because I was new, I was just kind of, but I really wish I would have been like, yeah, I'm not doing this shit. Y'all have to give me a bonus or something. Like, I'm not doing this. So I just wish like if I could say anything, just ask questions. Like just don't be afraid to ask questions. Like if something don't sound right, ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask.
Can I add? Oh, go ahead.
I feel like that's going to segue but we're taught. Our generation was taught. You don't question. Like
And
I totally do not pass that down to my son. I tell you, you ask the questions you need to ask.
Right.
Your tone better be right.
Right.
It's not wrong to ask the questions.
I was just gonna say, from a like spiritual perspective, one thing I will do with my children, I'm going to talk to them about purpose.
Yeah.
I'm going to identify when they're young, like with my niece who's in there, I notice every time she's at the house, she's like, "And Kiki, can I do your hair?" And so she one time said, "Oh yeah, I have blessed hands, like I can grow hair." So I'm recognizing, okay, so honestly, college may not be the route for her.
Right.
It may be training
Right.
school, because honestly, when I look at her in school, she does her work, she does good at it. But I'll tell you one thing, it doesn't excite her. But when she see that you get your nails done, your hair done, your makeup done, she like, oh, you look good. And so I'm like, okay, this might be one of her gifts. And that's another thing. Also letting our kids know one of your gifts. Like, okay, yes, I do love mental health. I feel like I'm called to mental health, but that's one of my gifts. I have other gifts. And letting them know, like, you know, you might start in journalism, but you might end in law. It's okay. And you might say, I'm gonna go back for a master's in journalism just because I want to finish that up. Okay, that's okay. Because like life is huge and you're gonna have, it's multifaceted. So really just helping them to identify purpose and like telling them like you have a purposeful life. So so they won't just be doing stuff by going through the motions. That's all.
Thank you, and I need that because I got two. I'm trying to raise. I don't want them to repeat the same shit I did. So. Thank you.
Okay. So, has your spiritual journey changed from like, you know, how you grew up from then to now? If it has, can you please explain how? Or why you chose to switch gears? This is kind of a loaded question too.
Can I go first on that?
Because you've experienced change with spirituality too, haven't you?
So I grew up in the church. Like my grandparents definitely made sure on Sundays we were in church, not just Easter Sunday, not just Mother's Day. When I was with them, I was always in church, period. And that gave me a foundation for the faith that I have. And I love that my grandmother taught me how to pray and that I know the power of prayer. But as time went on, as I got older, I guess the kid gloves kind of came off, or the, you know, you start to see more in the church. You start to see the hypocrites, the people that are, you know, praising God, but doing stuff they definitely should not be doing. Talking about people they shouldn't be talking about. And the turning point for me was when I was coming back and forth for college. And I've been in this church since I was born. My grandparents have been going there for years. And I truly love the people. I love when I came home, it was at homecoming from college, just being around people I grew up with and love. But it started to get toxic when you're listening to sermons and because the pastor is mad at so-and-so.
Come on.
The sermons are more about
so-and-so.
Geared personally.
Backbiting and being slick and just shadiness than it was about feeding me spiritually. So I didn't have that feeling when I came home from church, like, you know, that feeling to get me through the week, that hope, that, you know, the thing that you're supposed to get when you feel like you've been fed spiritually. So I had to look into other ways on how to feel that. My mother, I love her to death. Love you, Mommy. She will not go to a church unless it's a black preacher. She, you know, she's got to have the typical, she's going to get mad at me. But to me, when I go visit her church, she, you know, the grandstanding, the singing, I'm okay, I'm glad you can sing. I'm glad you have that throat. But I want to be taught. So when we moved to Texas, I actually went to a multi-denominational church, white pastor, actually very mixed church, but the main head pastor was white, and I would get mad if I was late for church once. That's because someone else made me late, and I was so mad. I was like, oh. But this church was just so open, and it taught you instead of trying to grandstand on things. And I'm pretty sure they probably had some issues within the church, but it wasn't what you saw. And to me, my church back home was just it wasn't beneficial to me spiritually. So I had to look into other ways of getting that. So I'm more in tune with my energy. I'm more in tune with feelings. I'm more in tune with passions and just feeling things.
I kind of grew up in it. See, mine is different. I kind of sort of grew up in the church. Like my parents stopped going to church at a certain point. So for me, I had to find my own personal relationship with Christ. And I will say that, like, just when you grow up as a child, like, getting kind of knowing God, like, knowing that that's a thing. Like, I know that my grandma, she was a prayer. I had spiritual components, but I found my own personal relationship with Christ when I was 26. And that's one thing I love. I can honestly say, like, that was something that developed because I sought it out. It wasn't something that somebody gave me, I guess. Like, oh, we can go to church every Sunday. No, it was like a personal experience. I will say that, I'm kind of like a sponge. So like you, I go to a non-denominational church and my pastor is not like, he is like he is like a teacher. So like he's such a teacher that he taught me how to understand the Bible, that when I read it, like I can catch revelation and I can expound and I can even understand it myself. And I think that's so dope because there's a lot of people like I read the Bible and I don't understand it and not knowing that the Bible is a spirit. So like that's living it. Matter of fact, all words are spirit. So we being honest. So like when you see it and it resonates, it's kind of dope. Also, just learning how to pray, learning how to worship, learning how to like go to God on my own. It's like I don't need to call somebody for prayer because I know how to do that for myself. But it's times where I do need more. I just want to say this, being comfortable with people who are not the same religion as me. I have friends who are very much, so their spirituality was different from ours. We don't knock each other for what we believe. Like, I'm a Christian. No, I like to say I'm a believer. I believe in Christ Jesus, but you may not, and you might be a Muslim. You know what I'm saying? Or you may practice something else, but I'm not going to knock you because how God come to you is how he comes to you, but I'm just firm in who I am, so I don't have to. I find that a lot of Christians feel very uncomfortable around other people, and I'm like, why? Like, do you know who you are? Because if you know who you are, you don't have to knock nobody else. I'm cool, because I know what I believe in, and what I believe in is my truth, and that's where I stand.
And that's the only thing that matters.
So
you have your own personal relationship, and that's what's important.
Yes, so I'm very much so into church, but I'm not like a traditional person. I'm not like the person who's gonna like thump the Bible, but I feel like you should carry love, and if you carry love, people come to you. And I will say that I have had more people come to me about the Bible or about going to church or just asking what church you go to, and I didn't even have to endorse anything. So I feel like who you are speaks for itself. So that's what I'll say about my journey.
We did a whole episode about this, so I'm just gonna like try to give a shortened version of my answer. So I was raised in church. My father loved church. My mama and them, they believe in God, but they are not like church goers. So my daddy was the person who taught me how to pray. We read the Bible together, all that great stuff. So I was very heavily involved in church as a child and as a teenager. But as Kiki said, the older I got, I started to see things that were off. I started to hear things that was like, that don't make sense. Cattiness, you can't sit a certain place because sister so-and-so sit there. Grown women got stuff to say to me, but it was just a bunch of bullshit. So when I went off to school, that's when I kind of became distant because I went to school 3 hours away. So I really wasn't here a lot to go to my home church. But I did miss the aspect of church, like, hearing the choir sing, praise dancing and stuff like that. I did miss that part of it. But I just didn't like the drama of church. So I still have my own relationship with God, but I just know that I don't need to be in church to have a relationship with God. And I just have my own belief about the way that things work and the gifts that people have. Because I feel like a lot of times as Black people, we are taught that ministers and preachers and pastors are put on like this pedestal for being, the closest thing to Jesus Christ. And it's not true. And I feel like, it's a lot of pressure put on them, and there's a lot of pressure put on people to serve them or look at them a certain way or view them a certain way. And I just have an issue with that because I feel like at the end of the day, they're a person just like I am. They struggle just like I do. So I don't like the pressure that is put on them or the congregation to like serve them and just to take in and soak in every single thing they say. And then I also, I have a spiritual gift myself, and I was lucky enough to have a mentor help me with it when it really started to take off. And I knew that if I went to church and told somebody what I experienced, I probably would have been said that, you know, I'm demonic or like I'm a witch. So, you know, certain gifts that I have just learned to appreciate them, and I just kind of channel them in my own way. But I know that if I was to go tell somebody who don't understand, I know it wouldn't be received well. So I just, you know, my relationship with God is my relationship with God, and the things that He tells me and shows me, then, you know, we have to have conversations about them sometimes. But I don't care to be in the drama of church. So yeah.
I hate when people say, well, not to, because I grew up Christian. Most of my values are still Christian.
Right.
I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ. But I've also done research, and I've also had experiences that you cannot explain to me, you know, that I know it's just only because of, you know, God, whatever. But I know what my experience, I don't like when Christians hit you with the, okay, it's that they'll be like, people hurt you, not God. Or like the church, don't make the church look bad because of like, people drove you away. And it's like, yeah, that's the point. I don't think they understand, like, y'all.
We're not saying God is bad.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yes, I left the church because of people, but I didn't leave God when I left the church.
Right.
God did not. My God did not stay there with you.
Exactly.
Because I left because I don't like y'all.
Yeah.
Like, yes, what you're saying, you're 100% correct. Yes.
Yeah.
People drove me away. I have no desire to go back.
Right.
Every now and again I go back because I love praise and worship. And I stopped that's one thing I wish I would not have done. I wish when I did start like figuring out what worked for me, I wish I would not have just completely like shut off what I was doing. Cause in my head I was like, this was bad, this was toxic, bad. And I just completely like did away with it for a while. Not praying, not talking to God, but I went to church, so I went worshiping. Like I can worship in my room. That kind of stuff, like now, like literally, I just started worshiping again probably the end of last year. Like putting on my gospel music and just going in like I used to. But that's a component of me. Like I am a worshiper. I can't not do that. And I felt like I was so mundane for years, lacking like the type of spirit. Like y'all see me, I'm bubbly like this. You would have met me when Kiki met me. What emotion? What? Don't hug me. I don't hug. Like I was a totally different person, but a part of who I wasn't implementing no more. So for me, I'll say I grew up Christian. I still have a lot of Christian beliefs. I actually have just had the urge to go back and restudy the Bible. Now that I really understand like spirituality and religion and stuff, like I really want to get deep into the word because it's very connected to even like astrology, like the word of God. So it's like, and even that, like me having to, because I'm not an astrologer yet, but I am studying and stuff like that because I see how that's even connected, like it's all connected, and that's something I had to come to terms with because I was taught my whole life that stuff is witchcraft, like tarot.
You're a witch.
Like I'm like if I walked up in
blank
CC today, cause they noticed my gift before I did. They saw it. I mean, and they had a lady come sit me and my best friend down and say, you have a prophetic gift.
I was about to say
and you need to stay here. You don't need to. You don't need to leave. You need to let somebody mentor you and shadow you. It was like they saw it. I didn't even know what I was doing. I'll never forget. We was in a Bible study. That was my thing. I love Wednesday night Bible study. Like it was just youth, but like you said, you found somebody who could actually teach you, help you understand. Yeah. Our youth pastor was bomb. So I didn't miss no Wednesdays. I was in college and everything. I got to go. I ain't no night classes and went that one church. So we would go, and I remember we prayed one night, and it's like I felt like I had no control of my body. I saw this girl who was crying. My body walked to her, and I told her, God is pulling back the layers. I saw an onion over her head, and like the onion layers was peeling back. Wow. And I, it's like I was not in control of it. It was like God said do it, and I just reacted.
Exactly.
Like it was so weird for me. And that night, I just can remember the co-pastor's wife staring at me like, this bitch, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, but they was like, oh no, get him. I ran, but
no, but that's facts. And I do want to piggyback to what y'all said about like the people thing, because I do feel that, you know, a lot of the times when people don't understand the church, is a lot of it is really formality, and it has nothing to do with God.
Right.
And that's why I will say, like, you know, emphasis on the personal relationship with God, because I, for one, am a minister, and I love what Brittany said about people putting you on a pedestal. I'm tired of the pedestals, because I do sometimes feel like I don't have a conviction for drinking wine, but it doesn't look good, I guess, to the church. But I'm like, but at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't halt my relationship with God. So long story short is, I said that to say, I feel like it's a lot of formalities, and I feel like you really have to have your own personal relationship with God. That's how you grow. That's how you get directed. So yeah, I agree.
I have to ask you a question. So your gift happened in church.
yes.
Mine did not. So I want to ask you, do you feel like that is what pushed you to try to figure out what it was within church constructs? Because mine was the opposite. So I had somebody explain to me what I was experiencing. They shared that, you know, we find each other.
Yes.
So she told me what her gift was, and so she mentored me through that, because the shit was scaring the living daylights out of me. And I kept saying, I saw this in my dream, I seen these names, why is this happening? I don't understand. But because we were not connected in a churchy way, it was just kind of like, okay, this is what you do, or this is what you can do with your gifts. Do you feel like yours was in the church construct because you experienced it in church?
So that was the first time. So when I was a kid, I used to experience it too, but you weren't supposed to speak. So I would have these visions. But it was just kind of like, it was just happening. And so the only other person I had ever told was my dad, because I saw him doing something that I didn't see physically. And I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and him and my stepmom was arguing about what I saw in my head, but did not see with my eyes. And so it was like I had experienced it, but in church, they solidified it for me. So I feel like they inspired. I can't even say the church inspired me, because I left the church shortly after that. Gotcha. But I was involved with like a small group. I was still Christian. Well, I mean, I still have Christian. I don't like to label myself. Like, I'm just a spiritual being. Like, so, but anyway, I felt like once I got into that small group, that's when, because it was like I had a mentor, and she was like, okay, this is this kind of gift. I kind of same thing with you. It got cultivated outside the church. Okay. It was like they put a pinpoint on it for me there. But when I actually started like going in Waffle Houses and telling people like, yeah, your son, you have a son that's sick, he's gonna be okay, like stuff like that, and they ball out crying, like that happened after I left. Gotcha. So I feel like my experiences started happening once I actually walked away.
Okay.
Yeah. Or me, I guess, getting confident.
Gotcha.
That was deep.
Yeah.
Really deep.
I don't think he went though.
I don't think you went either.
No, Tasha.
Oh yeah, everyone Tasha. Y'all see, y'all trying to slip through the cracks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I grew up in the church also. From very baby, my mom went to that church. My grandma, my great grandma, my entire family went to that church. And it's like I grew up in the church, Sunday school. I taught Vacation Bible School. Bible study, everything. Grew up there. And it was like, I felt like I was put on a pedestal, and to be like, oh, she's this, she's that, she gets good grades, she can't do no wrong.
Yeah.
So, but growing up, you hear them talk about everybody else.
Yeah.
But I don't want them to talk about me like that.
Yeah.
So, when I got pregnant, is when I stopped going to church. Because I was like, they're not about to talk about me the way they talk about everybody else. So that's when I stopped going to church. And that's when I started studying other religions and practicing more of a spiritual aspect and relationship with God. So, yeah, I can say I'm no longer Christian. I don't practice Christianity.
Yeah.
But I do have a spiritual relationship. Is what I can say.
Because I definitely walked away from the house pregnant.
Yes.
I was working at the church. So I was like, hey Jamel, call your Aunt Pam at 1 and tell her to do cashier. And I literally, within a week, I found out I was pregnant. Within a week, I left my job at the daycare at church and I went to work at Walmart. And I did not go back. Maybe a few times after I had.
I went once while I was pregnant. And somebody was like, oh, when you gonna get married? What?
Girl!
I ain't go back after this. Like, what? Who said that?
I think that.
Yeah.
No.
Tasha.
So, have a connection to the church? Well, no, I didn't have a connection with the church. My aunt, before she passed, we would go with her every Sunday. And I was young, I was really young. This before I even knew what any of it was. But shortly after she passed, only time we really went to church was for Easter Sunday, weddings, if there was a wedding, funerals. That was it. So there was no real connection behind being in the church. And with me being there when I was, it was just things I questioned. So it just, honestly, some of it didn't make sense to me. So I was like, okay, now I gotta figure something else out. So we kind of just, I don't know, growing, just trying to figure shit out. I just feel like I came to the point where I'm just like, no, I just feel like me, I'm just like me as a being is spiritual enough. So I just tap more into that. So in a certain sense, I just feel like Allah is kind of like a God to me, it's just me being me. Yeah. So I've just never been the type to be in the church or just claim Christianity or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Not short.
Okay.
I love that it's all different.
I love that everybody can agree, like agree to disagree, or just be okay, like comfortable with who they are.
Yeah.
Right. I had to get to that place though, because at one point, you don't believe in what? My baby daddy would not be my baby daddy if I still thought the way I did back then. But it was like, my only responsibility, the only thing that matters is what I resonate with. And we all have personal conviction. They can teach you that. And if this is what resonates with me, nobody can tell me that that's not my truth.
Yeah.
Neither can I tell you, it's all that matters. We have to stop projecting. We're conditioned in a country that teaches you to project and teaches you that it's group thing. We're all supposed to be kind of doing the same thing. No, we're not.
And that's how
No, we're not. So everybody's path of ascension is different. It's a great